coming on.
Live.
Howdy doodles. Mr. Ruaris Fairbairns, how are you today?
Fabulous this morning. What time is it over there?
So I'm based in Australia. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon here in Western Australia. We've got lots of people listening from all over the world though. So whatever time of day it is for you, hello. And today I have the amazing Mr. Ruaris Fairbairns on here, who is the CEO of 1 Year No Beer. And he's going to be coming at us with a few tips today about how we can all stay a little bit healthier, a little bit in control of our lives and our situations at the time. Rory, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Sarah, and everyone else. Thanks for joining me. Yes, so I originally from West Coast of Scotland, beautiful place, pretty synonymous with drinking culture over there, and set up my first business when I was 15 years old. And by the time I was 25, I'd tried 5 different businesses, the largest of which employed 10 people for 3 years in Edinburgh. I was like a serial failpreneur. As I used to describe myself. And then rather randomly through the TV program The Apprentice, I ended up becoming an oil broker in London. 2 worlds collided for me there, partying and being successful. The more I partied, the more successful I was. I was very good at my job. And I started off in crude oil, and then I went up to set up a jet aviation desk, and made it market leader in under 3 years. And there'd been this drinking was just always around, and I never had a problem with drinking. I partied hard in my 20s, I had a lot of fun, got a lot of war stories, and we'll share another time. And but I've now met my wife, and I was starting to think, I think alcohol's causing me more trouble than I realize. Specifically, in 2013, I got introduced to this thing called Headspace, which I'm sure everybody has heard of now. Yep. And I started meditating to Andy Puddicombe's face, because, of course, he was in all the videos then. And as he says himself, good face for radio. The meditation started to get me awareness of this habit. And I was like, I think alcohol's causing me more trouble than I realize. So I decided to take a break. I approached my boss, and he said, "You are committing commercial suicide if you stop drinking," which was huge peer pressure. And I think in a way, when I was thinking about it, I was like, nobody's gonna like me anymore. I'm not gonna have any friends. I'm gonna be so boring. My life is gonna end. I mean, I'm not gonna be a good broker anymore. So I kind of had to get to almost at peace with that. Like those things were okay for me to then take a break. And I took a 90-day break, and I was just blown away. I mean, so much transformed for me. I was fitter, faster, healthier, happier, better dad, better husband. A decade of psoriasis, a decade of IBS disappeared. I ran my first half marathon in 1:34:40. I had all these different projects going off because I just had so much energy and clarity. We project managed the rebuilding of a 40-year-old barn. As well as launching 1 Year No Beer that year, had a baby, just so many things. And I couldn't possibly have done all those things if I didn't have this alcohol-free superpower. So anyway, I was completely blown away by these improvements, and I got together with Andy, my co-founder, and he'd just done 6 months alcohol-free. And he said he'd done his 40th birthday in Ireland, I think, and he hadn't drunk a drop. Met up with him, and he was like half the guy, literally lost 3 stone. And we were like, there's something massive here. People don't realize the advantages and the benefits of taking a break from booze. It's almost like this negative thing to do. How do we get people to realize the advantages and the benefits? So in 2015, we started conjuring up the idea. And at the beginning of 2016, we launched 1 Year No Beer. And really it was, let's create a challenge, just a challenge, no stigma, no blame, no suggestion of what scale, just this is a challenge. Are you tough enough? Can you do it? 28-day, 90-day, and a 365-day challenge. And since then, we're now over 80,000 members in 90 countries. We've helped lots of people. As of not so long ago, I'm now coaching celebrities in Hollywood, which is hilarious. So there is it has a huge impact on people. I think people are sort of a bit blindsided by alcohol.
That's it. And you know, I can absolutely back this up as well from my own experience. I discovered you guys exactly when you first started with these challenges that you do. So for those of you guys who don't know about the challenges that are available through 1 Year No Beer, there is a 30-day challenge, there is a 90-day challenge, and there is a 365-day challenge. And then this is the point here is, you know, we all like a beer, most of us like a little drink here and there. And you think, I haven't got a problem, everything's fine, you know, I could totally stop if I needed to. Well, I challenge you, if you think you can, to try and go 30 days. Take the 28-day challenge that 1 Year No Beer have. And Rory, I believe you've got that for free at the moment. Is that right?
100%, which is oneyearnobeer.com/here for you. So we were talking about this before. We wanted to do whatever we can during this pandemic. So just to put that into the situation. First of all, we're a startup, a pivoting tech business is actually what we are really up to. We're in the middle of building our app technology, which we look forward to helping change behavior in all areas, not just alcohol. And coronavirus hit. Our team have all taken a huge salary sacrifice. Everybody has leveled down to a very low monthly salary. The team are all bought in, and we then needed to know what we could do for others. I started seeing the news come out that alcohol sales were up 22% in the beginning of March in the UK, 55% in the US. So we saw alcohol sales skyrocketing. Step counts down 50 to 100% across Europe. So people exercising less, drinking way more, using it as a coping strategy, anxiety, fear, all of this kind of stuff out there. So what we suggested is, and we saw as well in our community, lots of key workers, lots of NHS staff, doctors, lots of people like that who are in saying, I really need, 1 Year No Beer is my lifeline right now. And we were like, we're a lifeline to people. We never realized how much of a lifeline
service right there.
Yeah, we never realized how much of a lifeline we are to. So we put out that we would offer it for free to all frontline NHS staff, doctors, nurses, key workers, unemployed. Then it was like, there's no way of policing that. It's just free for everyone. So this is normally £59 to do the challenge. So we've given the challenge away for free to try and support everyone during this time. Now is the best time.
It is. I was over in the UK for just over 4 years ago when you guys first put these challenges out there. So those of you who haven't seen them, please go and get that free challenge because it's amazing. The 28-day free challenge. See if you can do it. I dare you. And I had just had a baby. I was overweight, overtired, felt horrendous about myself. And because I just had the baby, I was doing that whole thing. Well, I haven't drunk for 9 months. So glug, glug, glug. Right. And before I knew it, I was exhausted. I was drained. My brain was like fuzz. I just couldn't concentrate on anything. And on top of all of the hormones of having a new baby, my mental health was all over the place as well. And so I somehow your targeting got me on Facebook back then. And I joined the challenge, joined the group, and it absolutely changed my life. And I think I'd gone from a couch potato who didn't do anything and had one or too many red ones most days to within a couple of months later running a triathlon, which for me was just incredible. I mean, I couldn't even imagine I would do that. And like you were saying, I think the things you discover about yourself as well as the physical benefits of it were what blew me away the most. And I didn't realize how you get home from work after a stressful day, and because you're stressed out, you have a glass of wine. And if you've had a really good day, I'd come home from work and go, yay, you'll have a glass of wine because I've had a great day. And what I kind of discovered, and I'm going to get a bit deep here sharing some of this stuff, is that I actually hadn't really learned how to handle my emotions as an adult because I spent my whole entire adult life numbing either happiness or stress or frustration or joy or anything with a glass or two of red wine. It's ridiculous. So I had this real, for me, the biggest thing was, I have these things called feelings. How do I cope with that? And I think this is the whole reason why I wanted to get you on the call today, Rory, because you and Andy have created this program that doesn't just say, I dare you to, take 28 days or 90 days or 365 days off of alcohol. You actually step people through all of these experiences that they're going to go through, A, because you've both been there, but B, because you have now built a community of thousands of people that are going through this journey. Everyone from some who are just giving themselves a little bit of a detox, a little bit of a health kick, right the way through to people who are completely alcohol dependent. So can you tell us about some of the things that are inside this challenge, some of the things that people might expect when they go on a challenge like this, and how this kind of relates to where we're at now in the world at this time?
Absolutely. So I think that the big thing about the challenge, as we saw, is that we saw the whole concept of not drinking was a very negative thing. You had to go to a darkened place and sit in a circle and talk about being stigmatized and submit yourself to God, whatever that, all of that other stuff. And we didn't see any place where it was like, well, actually, we're not problem drinkers, but we realize that alcohol may be a problem. And that is the difference, is that I think it might be causing a problem. Now, how does one know? Well, I think in reality, the only way most people know if alcohol is causing you a problem is when you remove it. And it's like so many other things, right? You're like, I'm going to ditch sugar for a while and see how I feel off that. I'm going to ditch the caffeine, and wow, how much calmer do I feel now I've got rid of the caffeine? And I think it's very similar with our relationship with alcohol. You hit the nail absolutely on the head. And I guess this is the only bit of that sort of negative we will introduce during this call. The rest will all be focused on the positives. But you talk about numbing the emotions. So if we talk about specifically what alcohol is, if you Google what is alcohol, it says it's a colorless, flammable, volatile liquid, also used as a fuel source, ethanol. Now, a bottle of ethanol is what you buy in the hardware store, and it's got skull and crossbones on it. Right, so it is ethanol. It isn't different to that. That's exactly what it is. And has there ever been a study ever in the history of mankind that says that putting ethanol into the human body is good for you? No, there hasn't, because it's a poison. So the truth is, that is what we were taking, this highly poisonous drug. Professor David Nutt was kicked out of the UK government for a very long study, 30-year study, which proved that alcohol was the most harmful drug in the world. All right, so that's the reality of it, but we're all absolutely in the matrix where we're relying on it during difficult times, coping mechanism, neural pathways, all of that stuff that's been built over generations and decades that say, when I celebrate, commiserate, and congratulate, I do it with alcohol. Now, the great news about our amazing brains, and I'm sure we've heard all of this before, and many of us probably teach it, but this thing called neuroplasticity, which means that when I've shortcutted the learning of something, i.e. I start learning how to drive a car, it's incredibly complicated. I have to think about everything I do, but very quickly my brain sticks it onto autopilot from those neural pathways, and then it's super, super easy for me to do. No bother, I don't even think about doing anymore. If it didn't happen like that, then when you woke up in the morning, it would take you 50 minutes just to work out how to put your socks on, right? So thankfully it does work like that. But
sometimes it takes me 50 minutes to find my socks.
Oh, that's true as well. That's true. And so in the reality is, finding those socks, go into habit, but the brain also does that with other habits. And it's exactly the same for our relationship with alcohol. Over this generations, not only when we were younger at school and we were learning to identify alcohol in terms of status, are you cool, are you not cool, are you in the gang, are you not in the gang? Then in our 20s, alcohol is fun and it gets me laid and it makes me happy. And then in our 30s, alcohol helps me de-stress and unwind and get over my anxiousness. That's where all those associations comes from. But the reality is, we're using a drug to shortcut what we really want to get to. So we understood that and we said, well, how is it that we teach people to stay away from all the negatives of it and focus on what are the positives? First of all, it's discovering that habit loop. What is it I'm really trying to achieve? I'm feeling anxious and therefore I want to feel less anxious. Well, why take a drug that actually exacerbates anxiety? Because that's what it does. Alcohol creates anxiety. It's a depressant. So the very reason you need alcohol again is because you had it previously. And when you get off that train of needing, it's like, I don't feel anxious anymore. The other factor to take into consideration right now, and this goes really to anyone, is this is almost permission if you are drinking. I'm giving you permission because what I'm saying to you is I completely and utterly understand. You see, right now in the world, there's this pandemic, and the pandemic gives you a heightened level of anxiety and fear. It's the glimpse of the news. It's reading the paper. It's the documentary about coronavirus that I was just looking at before I came in here, which was
for many people,
mind-blowing.
their friends, their family, going out to work, who are essential services,
losing jobs, losing people. Okay, so we've got heightened anxiety and fear in the media, but we've also got grief and loss, because we've lost either family or friends, maybe some deaths or people that we know. We've lost our way of living. We've lost our jobs. We've lost the connection from just going to the shop. We've lost our skinny mocha frothable latte that we used to get every morning, whatever it is. Well, not you, Sarah, because you live in the jungle. But these routines were really important to us. So we've got this heightened level of anxiety and fear, heightened level of fear and loss and grief. And those are such powerful emotions. And so what happens when we feel emotions? Well, we rely on old behaviors. We rely on those old neural pathways, which is cracking open a drink and numbing out. The one thing I promise you is that it is not helping. So when you've got a heightened level like this, the natural level is here. When something happens to you, you know that the difference between the dull ache of pain and then the shooting ache of pain. Well, this is what you experience now. The dull ache is that heightened level in the world. It's almost like soup around us. If you're not paying attention to it, you're picking up by hearing the news and all that kind of soup around. When the sudden effect happens, your partner says something shitty to you, excuse my French, your kids do something annoying, there's an email that comes in and it goes bang, it hits so much harder because the heightened level is higher. So that's why we go back even more aggressively into these things, and that's why people are drinking more. So
one of the things that I loved about your challenges, the 28, the 19, the 365 challenges, is that it helps people figure out what it is that's causing that for them. There's a lot of activities that you put in there which really get us to kind of look and think and track and record and monitor and analyze and work out, where have I got this learned behavior from? What is my learned behavior? What is my trigger? And this is, we're not just talking about people who are alcohol dependent here, by the way. We're talking about just, the everyday person who comes home and has a glass of wine because they've had a good or a bad day. I mean, this is all about understanding our behaviors. Now we're all at home, we're inside a small room. Everything that we do is now magnified because we are in a smaller space. And it's a great opportunity to take this time to look at our behaviors and go, is that a behavior that's serving me? Is that something that's making me better, stronger, more successful? And I'm not going to sit here and preach. I still drink a glass of wine. I do what's called moderation, which you're going to tell us a little bit about, again, Rory, because you've been working on that very much as well, which I think is a nice spot to tell people about, for those who aren't necessarily interested in completely removing alcohol. Perhaps they're up for just doing some challenges to just get themselves clean and healthy and have this moment to look at them and assess their behaviors. But what else can people do if that's not for them?
Yeah, so the key parts here is that over 50% of people who come into 1 year no beer are looking for control. And the fastest way to control is a period of abstinence. The fastest way to get control of your relationship with alcohol is to break with it entirely. Really experience. Now, what do we do when we do it? Our program is not about not drinking. Our program, just like you said, is about understanding why we are behaving and changing our relationship with alcohol for good, so that we can then choose how we want to, and if we want to let it back into our life, we're back in the driving seat. And there's a process to go through that, just like we said, which is, how do I get how do I feel social inclusion without that? How do I feel connection, deep connection without alcohol? How do I have fun without booze? How do I feel successful? How do I, all these things that I've been using it for, how do I get that in a healthy and natural way? And this is why so many of our members go on to compete at things. We've got Guinness World Record holders. We've got all sorts of people like that, because they are like, hang on a minute, exercise is like the antidote to alcohol. And also the lymphatic system does not have a pump. So exercising early in the morning will help you detox quicker. So we always want to get that blood pumping nice and early. So we take people through this process of discovering why and fundamentally changing their relationship with alcohol. For me, I never wanted to give up forever, right? But once I started, I didn't want to give up what I'd discovered. Like 90 days was like, wow, this is amazing. I'm starting to lift the lid on here. All of these things that I thought were permanent about me, like this depressing, highly volatile ADHD, really struggling brain is not present right now. This unbelievable noise always in my head is much calmer right now. right? So I want to continue this. I want to continue this on. And we see this 87% of our members choose to carry on alcohol-free after their 90-day challenge. So, I mean, that is just phenomenal that even though they were coming in for control, more than half were coming in for control, and then they choose to carry on alcohol-free. Now, that's not forever. They're not saying I'm going to be alcohol-free forever, but they're saying I'm carrying on after 90 days because I don't want to lose out on this. Now, for me, I did 2 years alcohol-free, and now I drink as much as I want whenever I want. So like you, it's like moderation. Don't like the word moderation. We call it total control. Really, it's a place where, and we've just been working on this as a program to support people who, after they've done their challenge, that they can then go into a program which helps them. Really, there's a lot of sliding scale in drinking, right? So you've got light drinker who says, well, why do I need a program? I mean, I don't really need a program if I just want to stop drinking, I'm going to stop drinking. And I say, well, this is not about stop drinking. This is about changing your relationship with alcohol. So if you want to fundamentally change it so that you just don't ever, it's like give and take completely. I used to describe it as once you have absolutely loved what it is to be alcohol free, it's so easy to decide between the two, but you have to absolutely love alcohol free and not be pining for the other one. And I think that's when you get the more dependent drinkers or the more heavy drinkers. They are often searching for control, but the reality is they've got a much more saturated, a very intimate relationship with alcohol. Those neural pathways are going to take more of a shifting. So they've got to apply the principles even more. They've really, really got to get in there. And often it just takes time. The amazing thing about the brain is that we really need to learn by doing. And so often with our relationship with alcohol, those are going to these events. They're going to a business event and not drinking and going, I feel much better the next day. And I remember everything everyone said for the first time. And having the clarity and the energy and feeling afterwards, and, the day after the wedding, getting up for a run or whatever and be like, God, I feel so refreshed. I feel so happy. I did all the dancing. I did all the fun. I even moonied under my kilt. And I woke up the next day and had an absolute amazing day. That is when your brain goes, oh, there's a new neural pathway here, which is actually that, I can have fun without alcohol. Oh, what did I do?
Sorry, sorry, that was me. Turning my microphone off. So I was going to say, talking about brains, you guys at One Year No Beer have been working really, really hard over the last few months now in turning, not just your challenges that are life-changing for many. I mean, those people who aren't in the One Year No Beer Facebook group, go and check it out, because people's lives get changed in there every single day. People's lives quite literally get saved in there every single day. I've witnessed it myself. Now, you've been working really, really hard on helping more and more people, because like we've said a million times already, there are people who just want to take the break, have a detox, assess their behaviors and their relationship with booze. And then there are other people who are much further down that line, have a much longer journey ahead of them. And the only way for them to get where they need to be is to completely abstain altogether. And so you have created a range of education programs that help all of those people in all of those different places. Now, obviously, a lot of course creators, educators, entrepreneurs follow me who are all in different industries, and they are all either in the process of moving online or they are at the very beginning of this journey. Now, you have a fairly big team over there at One Year No Beer, not to mention a very big community of users and followers already. Now, I would love to know if you could share with other course creators, business owners listening to this program who are thinking about going online. Can you tell us about your journey with, creating your challenges, getting those up online, and the recent programs as well that you've created? How's that been? What have you learned? Tell us about that.
Oh, well, first of all, let's start with the positive, and that is Sarah Cordner is the best person I've ever worked with, externally, just so amazing, and helping me getting the Total Control program built together in super quick time, and the stuff like that is just phenomenal. All your systems, all your training. If you haven't signed up to Sarah Cordner yet, then we'll do it. And I keep referring people to you, and I always will, because you are just a machine. And I think the hard thing out there is that so much out there is just crap. People selling just So as a budding entrepreneur or young startup in the early days, it was a lot of freelance work. It was a lot of going to Upwork and Fiverr and all of these kind of things and trying to do things on shoestring budgets. And I mean, I will write a book one day about all the things of what not to do. I can tell you what not to do. There's a huge list of expensive mistakes of making with these things. I think my biggest issue is that I always just want to sprint. And I want everything now and immediately. I don't know if anyone's ever done their Colby, but I'm 10 on the quick start. Apparently that's very rare. It means I need to do everything yesterday. And so the briefs would be poor and limited. There'd be very little planning, but the expectations would be enormous. So I'm not sure it was the freelancers that were poor. It was probably just myself.
Oh wait,
when I look at
your late night Facebook message, Rose, we need a course. No problem, I can help you with that. When do you need it? Tomorrow.
That's everything is tomorrow.
All right, it's going to be a long night. Give me 8 hours.
Everything is tomorrow. But the bit I love about you is that you're like, okay. And then I'm like, okay, so we're staying online all night and we're getting this done. We're getting this done. I'm like, it's done. I love it. That's the bit I love. Yes, I don't like process and planning. And you, in fact, every time you said to me, there's a process here, Ruaris, I'm like, what's that word? Anyway.
Ruaris, can we draw a mind map? Can you draw one for me?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll just approve it when it's done.
Exactly. Just listen to me and then go do it. No, anyway. So I think that getting your systems right is often absolutely key. We've been through lots of iterations of in terms of platforms that we've tried to use to deliver 1 Year No Beer. We've made lots of very expensive technology mistakes. I mean, we built an app that has never seen the light of day and paid for it, unfortunately. And we're now on to the second one, which will hopefully see the light of day someday. So that is, I guess that is the journey. In terms of, I think the fastest time I've ever got something from ideation to live and running is when we worked together and you just went through your process and it was like, wow. And I was talking to somebody else. I don't mean to come back onto this again and keep blowing smoke up your ass, excuse my French, but it's just because you are so good. You know, I was saying to my mate Chris, who's looking for a course from you now, and I was just like, don't waste any money on anything else. Just talk to Sarah, go and do her stuff, because it will shortcut so much other crap. So I think that's been a lot of the piece for me. And I think going forward for us, the opportunity with coronavirus is that we are now looking to hire a tech team, and tech teams can be very expensive, but I imagine that with what's going on in the world, that there will be a number of talent available, which gives us an opportunity. In terms of our business, at the beginning of coronavirus, we started to see sales drop off because, of course, people were relying on drinking. And now we're starting to see people look for more support and more help. We've massively bolstered what we are doing. We've totally doubled down, trebled down on how we provide content in the community, the support we give our coaches. I think people think it's a very simple thing, but there's 22 full-time staff at 1 Year No Beer.
Wow.
When you they're like, oh, it's just a Facebook group, and I was like, if it was just a Facebook group, anybody would be doing it, but they wouldn't be getting success rates like we get. And it needs moderation. It needs lots of process and lots of community management and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So. The big thing for us is that, and I kind of touched on this, is that for us, alcohol was always just the first step. It was like the Trojan horse. What we are using is our learning and understanding to build a behavior change technology that helps people change their relationship with habits, surrounded by peer support. And that is relevant in whatever vertical that we are looking at next. For instance, 1 Year No Bet for the gambling industry, caffeine, sugar, drugs, whatever it is. This is about empowering people to give support around behavior change.
That's it. I'm just looking at the comments here. We've had a lot of people saying the same thing. You know, it's not just the alcohol. For some, it's sugar. For some, it's other things. And yeah, it's just amazing.
Sugar's even more difficult in a way, because it's so prevalent and it's just tucked away and hidden in foods, and so it can be consumed so easily, and you have to like be really careful going 15 lines down, and then one minute you're like, well, okay, I'll switch from Coca-Cola to Diet Coca-Cola. But then they're like, well, hang on a minute, aspartame is like the worst thing out there, you know, links to cancer, blah, blah, blah. So sugar's a really, really difficult one. But the one thing I would suggest, I don't know whoever's name that is, who was mentioning about Coca-Cola, but you know, that is absolutely one to try and get a hold of. We also provide a lot of content around changing behavior with sugar. So when you sign up to 1 Year No Beer Challenge, inside the members area, there's a number of resources for changing a relationship with sugar. Interestingly, that they're very linked. And the reason why they're linked is that the dopamine is released from the consumption of both of those things, but also the way the body processes alcohol into a sugar. And so you're getting that sugar fix. And when you remove alcohol, most people start reaching for sweet things because they're looking to try and get that dopamine release again. The biggest thing here is, again, you know, and we were talking about this being the perfect time. There's never been a better time right now to change your relationship with alcohol. Okay, so the reason why we all drink so much is because it's a product of marketing, social conditioning, and peer pressure. That's it. The reason why is because you've basically been hoodwinked into believing that alcohol's right. Why do you want to make the alcohol companies richer and yourself more depressed? That is what you are doing right now. Like, the alcohol companies are absolutely nailing this in coronavirus. So not only that, but you've changed your environment. You don't have the peer pressure. You don't have the work pressure. Yes, we've got that stress with kids. So this is where we really need to be implementing things like yoga and meditation. You know, it's like that 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, I've got the kids down and I'm really now, or 1 o'clock time, I deserve it. What am I going to do at the time? Well, that's when you hop on the spin bike. That is when you, you know, do some exercise. Vigorous exercise then will release dopamine.
Take an online course.
Take an online course. Just hanging out with Sarah will release dopamine.
That's it. That's it. It's amazing. So I think we'll get to the point where we'll wrap this up now. So for those people who, you know, there's all different industries that people are coming from and coming into or want to move into now. So, you know, anyone can create an online course. Anyone can create online products, online challenges like you have done at 1 Year No Beer. Having gone through the process, have you got any tips for anyone? You know, you said you've got lessons of what not to do. Any tips that you can give people as they start thinking about moving into this transition to online journey now that you've been there, done it, and got your programs up online?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, looking at it in the past for Andy and I, is that we were trying to marry up our own experience with what was out there in terms of research. I would be definitely trying to build some audience first, and that can be podcast and blogging and opening up a free group and something like that to try and build yourself a bit of audience. Once you've got a little bit of audience, it doesn't need to be many, a few to 100-ish. Those are your testers. And starting to put some content into a Facebook group and getting some response back onto that content is a great way for MVP. You can start running your Zoom calls. You know, none of that you have to pay for in the early days. It's like, this is easy. And you test and test and test and kind of perfect the content. And there are things like, when you come on to do a live, have 2 cameras. Do your live camera, but also have your HD camera. And then as soon as you finish the recording, whoa. As soon as you've finished the recording, you now cut off the little livey bits you did, and you just have the content that you can then put onto your members area later, so that you're stripping out content. Of course, you can then send that to rev.com, create a blog, and we know about content regeneration. The other thing I would just say for about the 55th time here about Sarah Coordinate is, whenever my modus operandi is always, when I need to do something that I don't know how to do, I'm going to pilot in an expert. That is always how I operate, right? I'm going to pull somebody in, right? You're an expert, come here, help me deliver this piece. So I've used hundreds and hundreds of freelancers. So if you're going to do a course, then use Sarah Coordinate's stuff, because it will shorten down the journey. it will massively reduce the time wastage of going out and discovering and thinking about this and thinking. Just follow a simple process. Your process was so slick that ours was done in like 2 weeks. From start to finish, just bang, bang, bang.
Complete production. Yeah, so we smashed up the course plan in a day, and you went and filmed it like that 2 days later.
I filmed 42 videos, having never read any of the content or done anything. I filmed 42 videos in 4 hours from 8 a.m. to midday. 42 videos were recorded.
And he live streamed him doing it as well. It was amazing.
They call me one take wonder, but your prompts and the bits and pieces were looked, done, shot, and it was done. So, and that's what you get when you work with a super pro like Sarah Cordner. So seek out these people. I can't recommend Sarah enough. And do you know what? If you're thinking about doing a course and you are still drinking, you're going to be able to build your course within 28 days with the amount of time you'll save. Stop drinking. Like, productivity goes through the roof when you knock booze on the head. It goes through the roof. People go, I don't know what to do with all this time. Build an online course.
Well, you're on the 30-day challenge.
This coronavirus thing could be years. You know, the effects. I listened to Airbnb this morning. He said he's prepared for this to go on with travel severely impacted for the next couple of years. And like, wow, we've got to start getting ourselves in order. Like, guys, the news, the shock, all the crap that's happened. You've had a good time drinking and trying to numb yourself out of it. Let's get on front foot. Let's start thinking about the opportunity. Let's build an online course. Let's start working out how we can make money and look after our families in this time of day. And we can do that superbly well with both of us. Stop drinking with me, build a course for Sarah.
Love it.
There you go.
Well, on that note, do not forget that 1 Year No Beer have very kindly opened up their 28-day alcohol-free challenge, completely and utterly free of charge. So do go to the link below. For those of you listening on the podcast, that's oneyearnobeer.com/here for you. And the link will be in the comments and the show notes. And of course, if you are interested in creating your own online course, I have a completely free course creation starter kit, which you can get at sarahcordner.com/starter kit. And like I say, I think what a brilliant challenge. You're going to be stuck in home for the next few days. Why not do a 28-day alcohol-free challenge and challenge yourself to create your online course in that 30 days as well, which you can certainly do with that starter kit. Ruari, thank you so much for coming on today. Very different type of podcasts and presentations to the ones I normally do, which are usually focused solely on course creation. But we are working with the brain. We are here to share ourselves, our knowledge, our expertise with the world. The people listening to this program are leaders in the industries. And if we are not showing up as our best self, if we are not our healthiest, our most vitality and most full of energy that we can possibly be, we're not going to have the most impact that we could be having on our audiences and on those that depend on us for our leadership. So, Ruari, thank you for your tips.
Just on that last note there, we interviewed one of the top entrepreneurs in the UK. He'd won Entrepreneur in the UK, and he said he'd done 1 Year No Beer, and he said, I realized in the last 6 months that I have been operating at 80% of my ability until he removed booze. Does anybody want a 20% upgrade? 20%.
Amazing.
There you go. And it's
20%
free.
pay rise, 20% more traffic, 20% more impact, 20%, and for some people, who are really overdoing it, that could be 50% plus, underperforming because of being tired, because of not having the energy to get stuff done. Love it. All right. Well, thank you very much. Don't forget to go and grab your free bonuses at oneyearnobeer.com/here for you. I look forward to seeing all of you guys in the 1 Year No Beer group, as well as my Facebook group, Entrepreneur to Edupreneur Course Creators, seeing some of the results that come out of this amazing marriage of free programs. Ruari, thank you so much.
Thanks, Sarah.
See ya.